Let me introduce my guest today. This is Jason Raznick. Jason is the founder and CEO of Benzinga. We're going to talk about Benzinga. We're going to talk about GameStop. Before we get started, I kind of want to let you know that the background of Jason, and I think the reason I want to have him on the show is because this whole GameStop story is about the little guy fighting against the big guy. And I think I really vibe with that. Specifically, this whole story actually sounds a lot like the creation story of Benzinga, the way I understand it. You want to give us some background on how you got started and why Benzinga even started and what Benzinga is?
Yep.
And by the way, this video is not sponsored, just so you know. Jason's not paying me to do this before all you cynics in the comment section start commenting. I'm just doing it because I like the app.
He's not paying. We're not paying him. And as Tom says, he doesn't need to say like or subscribe. He doesn't need to say that. You guys do what you want. I'm going to copy Tom here. Okay. So back in 2098, I went to University of Michigan, as did you, Tom, and I lived on a street called East University. And so I was obsessed with the stock market, just like a lot of kids, but I liked finding small caps that others didn't find. So I would go on Yahoo message boards, find these small caps. The first one I found that was interesting to me was a company that owned JDig. The CEO is Mel Shapira. And I'm this guy who's like 20 years old. So I reach out, I'm like East Capital, I lived on East University, asking questions. And I'd go to Yahoo message boards, post stuff. Then comes a year or two later, 9/11. After 9/11 happened, I started reaching out to defense companies and anthrax companies that like have gloves. There's a company called Versar. VSR was a symbol. The CEO is Dr. Theodore Prociv, Prociv. I was posting to Yahoo message boards about my research. I didn't know at the time what I had. I generated a large following. Somehow the CEO got my email address and he wrote me an email, explained why he sold the shares. And then I would post to the message boards and I would say what I found out. And the stocks would move on what I would say, which was crazy to me. I was 21, 22, but I did immense research. Like when it comes to drones, and I knew drones like the back of my hand, General Atomic. Then there was a company called Envision. INVN was a symbol. When you would go to airports, I like to look and be aware of what I see. And they did a lot of those luggage scanning technology. It was public at the time. It was $40 a share. Well, I didn't have much money. I had like $3,000. So I remember calling the Amex to get options traded on the Envision. Options then did start trading like 2 weeks later. I don't think I really had anything to do with it, but I did call to get them traded. 3 months later, GE bought Envision out for 200%. This is a long story to say, I started Benzinga because there was no agnostic news vendor of small cap companies. I was really good at finding intelligence on companies that people don't know about. The big media companies cover Bloomberg, whatever, they cover Google's, the big companies, you get it, Facebook.
Yeah.
But they weren't covering the small cap companies. And so that is how it originally started. End of 2009, beginning of 2010. There's a guy by the name of Tom Sosnoff who's just sold Tasty Trade for $1 billion. He previously sold Thinkorswim to Ameritrade for about $760 million. Well, it's a little confusing. There was 2 transactions, but he saw our feed. It was focused on small cap news. We put it out like 40 articles a day. He loved it. And he became our first licensed customer of Benzinga. Thinkorswim did. The first one we had for small cap news. Well, as the years went on, a couple of years, the brokerage industry was changing a little bit. They wanted to trim some costs. And they said, hey, if we can cover the whole entire financial markets, they would use us. So I had a decision to make. Do we just stay and focus on small cap stocks, which arguably, if you take like a Bain Capital or a consulting point of view, maybe that would have been a better niche for us. Everyone would know that we had the best coverage of small caps. Or do we go to the brokerages, and say, okay, we'll provide all this content. We chose the latter because then we didn't have to go raise more money and these brokerages would pay us. And so we now write 100 stories a day and about 1,400 headlines a day. We're breaking news. Our news moves stocks just like the Wall Street Journal does. The biggest companies in the world are customers of us. If you're using an online brokerage, there's only like 1 or 2 that don't use us. And if you do look at timestamps, you'll see that we're first 80% of the time, but we're first and second 98% of the time. Our team is measured by that. And when I say first, that's on news like earnings, but we break stories. So on Thursday, we broke the story that Apex clearing house that was for the back ends of the brokerages, we broke the story that they were allowing trading in GameStop, etc. And when we posted that, and that allows Public, Webull, all those other brokerages.
Yeah.
And so Benzinga broke that story. If you were watching our Benzinga feed at that time, you had a good 25 minutes to buy some of the stocks and make alpha because no one else had it. Not Bloomberg, not CNBC, not the Wall Street Journal. Benzinga broke the story. So, I see people talking about these other companies, but there's alpha to be made when we're a smaller company and we have 12 million people that come to our site a month, but we're a smaller company. So there's alpha. We distribute content and we're agnostic to the story. We're not favoring something. And it's hard because when I hire writers, and I know this is the longest answer, Tom, writers sometimes come with preconceived biases. We had a writer write a story yesterday and he was referring to to something and he said that they invest in risky stocks. It's not the writer's choice to say they're risky stocks. He had the word risky stocks. I'm like, how do you know they're risky stocks? This person may think they're not risky stocks. And so you have to take those preconceived notions out. What we try to do is give the news and then give you ideas off of the news. That's my long answer to how it started. And that's the story of Benzinga. And then we have a thing called Benzinga Pro, which is our real-time news feed. And if you don't have that time, I will get that for you by the end of the show.
We're talking to Jason Raznick, the founder and CEO of Benzinga, a good friend of mine. He's here as kind of the market expert to talk about what's going on right now, the craziness of this market. We had Patrick Ball yesterday, a hedge fund manager, talking about the hedge fund side of it. Now we have an actual legit bona fide news source. For me, it's even more credible than mainstream media. I'll give you an example. When I was watching Anthony go live on your show with Luke from Webull and actually explain what the hell is going on, why are they blocking the buy side and not the sell side, which is a question nobody asked because he provided the explanation. But I mean, you specifically, I remember you asked, well, Anthony, that's true, why we can still sell the stock? Because that was the whole conspiracy theory. People were like, you can sell the stock, somebody's buying. And he explained, well, because when we sell, we don't have to put up collateral. That was the first place on the entire internet that actually gave the answer to that question. A lot of people don't want to believe that and they still want to stick to the conspiracy theories. That's fine. But I'm saying that kind of news, that's why I watch you guys. The extra value for me, which I don't get on mainstream media, regardless of, they're all the same to me.
What I don't understand, Tom, I'm listening to an interview for mainstream media. They ask a question, even like Chris Como on CNN, who knows the markets a little bit because he's in the financial space. He didn't do the follow-up question. Vlad, and I like Vlad, but you can ask better questions. Okay, so we stopped the trade to protect our customers. Okay, so then why did it protect our customers? Is it because you needed more money to get into the market makers so that way the stocks didn't close down and you're just trying to protect? And that could be the case. Like the more honest and transparent these companies are, the more people are gonna understand it. Maybe Robinhood didn't have the money to spend, or we couldn't buy the stocks, or you stopped margin buying. I don't know. But what I find a lot of times with other news networks, they don't ask like the obvious follow-ups. They don't ask things.
I saw that Vlad interview. I agree with you.
Like, yeah, I get so frustrated. I want to hit something on the TV. Just ask the obvious follow-ups. And Tom, something you do is you have the chat live right now because you're going to miss some questions. I'm going to miss questions. And so then you have your people, give them, because you're not going to always remember things. And can I talk about that Thursday thing yet right now or no?
Let's do it. You're the guest.
So Thursday, the market's closed down. I host this 12 o'clock or 12:10 show on Benzinga on YouTube called, I'm not saying the brokerage Robinhood doesn't have any money. I'm just saying there was a follow-up question to ask to get deeper on the decision making. Because you have to understand that morning they made a decision and I want to be in that room. I want to be in the room where it happened. Like I want to be in the room where it happened. I want to get in their head and say, why did you make that decision? So if they say protect customers, that's awesome. Okay, but why did you need to protect customers? What was the reason to protect them? There had to be something, and no one has really got deep on it. I did with the CEO of Webull, Anthony Dinar, and meet Kevin and some Apple YouTube show that has like 2 million followers. He played my whole interview, and it's because I just wanted to know. I wanted to know what is going on.
Louis Rossmann, by the way, played your whole interview. I don't know if you know Louis. You know Louis Rossmann?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. The Apple guy. He played the whole interview.
The Apple guy.
Like,
I love his videos. He's very smart.
I did not know who he was, and then he wrote the nicest thing about us. He's like, this Benzinga place asked the right questions. Louis Rossmann wrote this thing yesterday. I should send him like a freaking something because I got all these messages from like past employees of Benzinga saying, I used to work at Benzinga and this guy, Louis Rossmann's my idol. And he's showing my old boss on the front page of the site.
Yeah,
so,
because you asked the right follow-up, Jason. I mean, listen, even now in chat, we have a user, Go Trump Yourself, and he's asking, why didn't they stop selling? People are still asking the same question. I mean, you want to answer that again?
Well, so why didn't they stop selling? Well, they couldn't close the selling down. Well, you can go the conspiracy theory or not on that one. But the reason why the selling thing is, if you own a stock and they say you can't sell it, that's a big problem. The issue was when Robinhood went down earlier in the year or last year, people are with Subi and they got some funds back because in that scenario, they were down, you couldn't do it. But they can never say you can't sell your stock. I mean, as much as if they wanted to, the reason they're saying you can't buy the stock is this. There's a 2-day rule. It's called T+2. So if I buy 100 shares of a $10 stock today, okay? $10 stock today, $1,000. The brokerage has to fund those accounts to the clearinghouse. So $1,000 has to go to the clearinghouse. Well, the cost to fund those, they have to just give like 10% of that money. So instead of giving $1,000, it's like when someone goes to jail and they pay bail to get out, they pay 10%. It's the same thing with the market. Bad analogy, but that's how it works. It's 10% of what the stock costs. The brokerage has has to send to the clearinghouse. Well, what happened was there's this thing called the DTC. So Thursday, I text the CEO of Webull. I can show my text. You guys can see, I can put up my phone. And I'm like, what's going on? What's going on? So he calls me. And so I said, let's just go on air. So we go on air. It was audio. And it's when they were closed down. And we asked everything. And he's like, we're calling Apex. We're fighting it. Because what's going on is the DTC, and you guys can go to their site, DTCC, you can look at it, the SEC, and then Apex. Robinhood used to use Apex. They used to use Apex as a clearing firm. That was their clearing firm. Apex is a small investor in Robinhood. 3 years ago, they switched off Apex and did clearing internally at Robinhood. So Robinhood clears their own thing. They don't use Apex. So it's different scenarios. And so they made a decision. They could have made a different decision potentially. Charles Schwab, for example, I'll give you the different brokerages. And I talked to the executives at Charles Schwab as well. Charles Schwab increased the margin requirements. Margin requirements are this. Say you own stocks on margin, which means say you have $100,000 in an account, but you've put $120,000 in the market. That means you're borrowing $20,000 from the stock market. Okay. And you're borrowing money from the stock from the brokerage. They charge you interest. Interactive brokers charge like 1.95. E-Trade charges like 4%. Other ones charge like 8%, what have you. Okay.
It's a loan. It's a loan.
It's a loan. It's a loan. I hate using big words like margin's not a big word, but if you don't know what it is, it sounds like, margin call. It's like
they're lending you money to play the stock market. It is what it is.
So back in October, Tesla, the stock of Tesla, E-Trade, Ameritrade, a couple others, increased the margin requirement on Tesla. So I have a friend that was on a lot of margin of Tesla, big believer. He called me and said, I just had to sell 20% of my Tesla shares. Jason, buy all the stock you can of it because it's false selling in the market today because we got a notice this morning that we have a margin increase requirement. So Tesla stock went down 8% that day. I don't know if I listened to him and bought the stock that day. I don't recall what I did, but margin requirements on individual stocks change all the time and go up. Charles Schwab on Thursday, they increased the margin requirement on GameStop, on AMC, Revlon or whatever, okay, on Tootsie Roll, whatever it is. They increased the margin requirement. Now, people who aren't that knowledgeable how this works said, okay, Charles Schwab is not allowing trading either in these stocks. That's not true. The margin requirement on stocks changes all the time. I can show you email alerts forever. Robinhood went a different way and closed everything on the buy side. We don't know because the questions haven't been asked in the right way what the situation really was and why they did it. We don't. I know there's speculation that Citadel, this we do know. Citadel clears by 60% of Robinhood's trades. And we know Citadel invested in Melvin Capital. So the easy theory is that Citadel called and said, do that. That's an easy theory, but there's a lot more to it. Robinhood is a company that's was scheduled or it could go public in the next 2 months at a $25 to $50 billion valuation. So I don't believe that they need to listen to the Citadels of the world. I guess I'm not in the room. The night before, is my guess, is the SEC, all the different firms got together and said, we got to slow this down. And so the way to slow it down is like, we'll have buying slow down, and then the backlash that came from it was so large that Webull, I did 2 interviews with the Webull CEO. One is an audio interview where you see the iPhone held up to the screen. And then there's one at 2:00 when he opened trading. And this is when we broke the story. This is when Webull opened up for trading. He explained the whole thing. He's like, the DTC, Apex, SEC got on the phone. They lowered the requirements. We're open for trading. That's it. The question I get, Tom, is why don't they do the same thing to Tesla? Tesla's gone up 500, 600%. Why didn't they slow the buying in Tesla? It's a good question.
I can answer it pretty easily. Tesla is not going to go to $100. These stocks might go back to 10 or 20 in a day.
Yeah. And so what happens if these stocks fell to $20 in one day, then these clearinghouses could be out of business because they're putting up the money. Who's going to pay them? So that's the side of it. Okay. I believe in over communication. I'm not here to judge anyone's communication, but I believe in over communication when this stuff is happening. I talked to the Webull CEO on the phone 2 or 3 times that day. And I talked to Schwab as well. Ameritrade I talked to as well. Like those are the guys that I got a hold of and I had them on. And then I also had on the CEO of Voyager. I had Dave Portnoy on as well from Barstool Sports and a few others, Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank.
Yep.
And he was all about it. He loved that the hedge funds were getting screwed. I got brought on like everyone I could possibly bring on and to get their perspective because it was in 30 years, never seen anything like it. And so next week, this stuff isn't over right now. In my opinion, this stuff isn't over. I know futures are down, Tom, but this stuff is not over.
I agree.
This is the craziest thing. I'm going to go try to pull it off Benzinga's site right now.
Let me just tell. Tasha Roethlisberger asks if you interviewed Vlad. Well, no, he didn't interview Vlad. He interviewed Anthony.
I need to reach out. I'll reach out to Vlad. I'm going to reach out to Vlad today to see if he'll come on the show on Monday.
But you interviewed Anthony, who's the CEO of Webull. And by the way, tell Anthony, I don't know the guy. I don't have any relationship with him. I think he crushed it. Anthony's interview was a lesson in transparency. I think Vlad did a poor job with CNBC. It was a train wreck of an interview. When you guys did it with the iPhone, it was the most transparent thing. It's just live. I really like his answers as well. He was really giving like the actual behind the scenes. He wasn't trying to pretend things are not what they are. I mean, Anthony killed it.
I agree. I'm going to text him.
Abu Bakar Subedar asks you, Jason, how much you think this will damage the IPO ambitions of Robinhood?
The answer to you on that is people have they usually have short-term memories. Does it get delayed? Does it happen? Short-term memories. So there's a lot of anger out there right now. So how does Robinhood switch at 180? Do you guys have ideas? I don't know. You know, if someone really knows what your situation is and why you're doing something, you start to understand stuff more. You know, you just do. I mean, people may want to know why when I started Benzinga, I started in my basement. I had $3,000 like in savings, and I had as much anxiety you could ever imagine in the world. I'd wake up at 3 a.m, and literally my heart was beating outside my head because I had a 3-month-old at home, and I was so anxious. I didn't know what to do. I can't describe my emotions back then. And then now that was 2010. And then when I hired my first person and paid them $40,000, I was freaking out. Like, oh my God, $40,000. That's almost $1,000 a week. It was just from the mentality of like blood, sweat, and tears. And now we have 85 people, and people make, great money. And it's like when people understand where you came from, what situation you were in, to where you are now, I think things change. And I think Anthony did a good job to explain that. And he explained what was going on, because Anthony, he would open trading. He doesn't Anthony knew if his trading stayed open the whole time, he could steal market share from everyone. But he was on the phone with his market maker, with Apex. And I reached out to the CEO, Bill Capuzzi of Apex, who I'm like friends with. I know these guys because we're a vendor to a lot of these brokerages. We provide them data and news. I know these guys. I believe relationships in life are everything. And I try to always give more than I receive. That's what my parents, my grandparents taught me, to try to give more than I receive. So when I called them for not like what's going on, they came to me first. When trading opened back up in those stocks, the tweet had over 60,000 likes, 10,000 retweets. We are the first one by 25 minutes. And people said, Jason, you're wrong. But I was right. And these people are the thing.
Well, you're right.
Okay, you guys don't know this, but this is a true story. And it's about this GameStop thing. Okay, there's an article that I'm going to read from right now, and you don't have to go to it. I'm just going to read the first sentence or two. To me, this was the craziest thing I've ever been associated with. So we had on Andrew Left, who's from Citron Research. He couldn't get live on his video or something. His Twitter got hacked. And we know Andrew Left. Spencer Israel says, why don't you come live on Benzinga's Power Hour right now? So if you listen to the clip and he said Andrew Left went live, me and Luke are the hosts. So all of a sudden they text us that Andrew Left is live, but Spencer doesn't text us. He just slacks us and says, Andrew Left is going to talk about GameStop, but I don't see that. So Andrew Left comes live and we're like, Andrew, it's nice to have you on. How's it going? You're really opinionated. You go out there, we start just talking about his life, like nothing to do with any stocks. And then he's like, let's talk stocks already. And so I'm like, me and Luke don't know what stock. So we Google his name, find a few stocks. And then Luke's like, do you want to talk GameStop or this one? He's like, guys, let's talk GameStop. Well, we didn't know this was about. All right. So now he starts talking GameStop. The stock was at $41, guys. This is the craziest thing ever. Stock was at $41.
He's bashing it.
Yes. There was probably 600 people in the room at this time. 600. Within 3 minutes, maybe 4 minutes of him talking about GameStop, Wall Street Bets shows up. The show ended up among the most important events in history since Bill Ackman squared off against Carl Icahn on live TV. While Left was sharing his short thesis, members of the Wall Street Bets took over the discussion on Benzinga's YouTube channel, posting thousands of messages defending GameStop's growth prospects, and board member Ryan Cohen. The stock hit a high of $76 the next day, prior to continuing the meteoric rise that left Citron no other option but to exit his bearish bets on the stock at a loss. Benzinga's Power Hour is where one of the most well-known short seller, Melvin Capital is another one. Then the Wall Street Bets community, they all went live. This show is going to live now in the annals of history as the room where it happened, because GameStop stock did move from 20 to 40 over time. But when we brought Citron on, Wall Street Bets showed up. And then we brought on Rod Elsman, who created the site GMEDD and part of the Wall Street Bets community. Stock in 2 days during our show with like 41 to 50 and then 50 to 70. And there were 25,000 people in there, and they're mostly GameStop owners. And you can go look at the live chat. I have never seen anything taken over. You know, they use like the rocket ships, and we didn't know how to get the emojis. If you go look at the show, guys, on YouTube, you're going to see that there was like 3,000 or 10,000 rated on it. 7,000 were rated high and 7,000 were thumbs down. Our average show has 95%, 99% thumbs up. We had 50% thumbs down. The reason was because Citron was on, so they were going to thumbs down.
Yeah.
And then the other reason was Luke and I, Hot Stocks Luke, we didn't own GameStop and we weren't buying it. So, and they said they're going to keep thumbs down, they're going to unsubscribe. So Luke got pressured into buying 100 shares. And then I got pressured into buying 100 shares. I bought it in the last 5 minutes of the show. So the next day they come on the show and they're like, is Jason still a boomer? Because I didn't get the GameStop thing. I showed my screenshot and then they're like, oh my God, all right, we're sorry, Jason. They loved us the next day. But literally this crazy thing started in a real way last Thursday when Citron came on our show and did the thing, and the Wall Street Bets guy showed up, and then he put in another video out, and then they showed up, and now he's not doing short stuff anymore. It's totally crazy how that we were in the center of this thing. I didn't even know. I like had no control over, because like the Wall Street Bets, what I would say about this is, and I know I've talked for a while, but what I would say about this is it's a enthusiastic, passionate community, no different than when hedge funds would go meet at, you know, Ruth's Chris or Del Frisco and sit in the back area, and there'll be a hedge fund member from each hedge fund, like 20 different ones, and they shared ideas. I was at one of those hedge fund dinners. So way back when I wanted to work at a hedge fund, Third Point, and I was at one of these dinners where we shared ideas. This is not that much different. I mean, there's some things that are different for sure. The thing that I would say is these guys in these communities now have control, or not control, but power, and they're a voice. And if you're a short seller right now, you better be careful, because these people can get passionate on a stock. And to be honest, Ryan Cohen from Chewy, who I've tried to get on our show, he is the real deal.
He can come on though. Regulatory issues, he can talk about it. So I had no idea that this whole thing skyrocketed after Andrew Left actually came on the show. I didn't see that interview, and I had no idea that you are the one who started the fire.
And we had no article about it. The New York Times reached out to me originally about this, and I shied away from the news. I didn't give them the story. If you look me up on Reddit right now, the day of this thing, and you look up Luke, they made so much fun of us because we didn't own the stock yet. They're like, what is Benzinga? Benzinga tells you why the stock moved. They say it was up because it was up. It's down because it was down. They're making fun of us and all this stuff. And then the tide changed. So Luke said one thing during one of the show. Luke's like, he bought it through Interactive Brokers. And this is what Luke said, Tom. This is what I'm talking about, a fervent crowd. Luke said, I'm going to lend out my shares so he can make interest on lending out the shares to Interactive Brokers. They went crazy on Luke. They loved us. And then Luke said he's going to lend out his shares. They went crazy. And I said, Luke, you cannot lend out your shares. You're not lending out your shares. Luke doesn't know what he's talking about. So he didn't lend out the shares. But this, if you go back to that video, you look at the price chart and you see everything, you'll see this is the room where Wall Street Bets, live at Citron, and it was a battle. That's what happened. And if you guys go back to the clip, I promise you this is where it happened. Last Thursday, you go to the Benzinga YouTube channel. Last Thursday, there's an hour and a half. The tides changed, and Wall Street Bets took it over. I mean, they did. I understand the vitriol now when you can't buy stocks anymore, and it looks like you let your shorts get out. I get that. Like, I understand it. It makes sense. It's a terrible situation to be in right now. Press 1 if any of you guys own GME, AMC, or TR. I own GME and I own AMC. I don't own a ton of either, but I own GME and AMC just for, and I did own Tootsie Roll, but I don't own it anymore.
I want to click one. I own one share of GameStop, which I bought on air when I was interviewing Will out of solidarity. So I have one GameStop share when I bought with Will on.
I'm so annoyed about costs. See, I don't trade most of the day because I'm working on Benzinga. I tried to buy cost pre-market and E-Trade didn't let me. So I was like, I never got my shares, and then it went up like 280%. I hosted a clubhouse on GameStop. It had like 3,000 people. By the way, you know who powers Clubhouse?
You're gonna give him a power tip. That's
Agora.
A good tip.
And I bought the stock API. A is in Alpha, P is in Peter, I is in Igloo. There's a thing called a Clubhouse. Tom and I know it. It started in Silicon Valley. It's audio chat with people, and it's going to grow like crazy. You can't get in the investment as a private investor right now. It's impossible, basically. The symbol is API. I bought shares of it last week, and they power Clubhouse, and the company's Agora. I like
it's still
it.
Not
so
priced.
If you want a stock, it's not. It could go up. So
yeah, write it down. Agora. That's a power tip. Agora API. Jason gave it it to me a couple days ago. This is not the fact that they're powering the biggest, fastest growing, did a raise of in the valuation of $1 billion. You couldn't get in. People were knocking on the door to try to participate in the.
So you can't get in. No, you can't get in. I actually
It's the
follow
hottest
social
thing.
media, and so yeah, and I do put money in. API is a pump and dump administrator.
No,
Why do you
no,
think
no,
that?
no, no, no. That's a good question.
That's
I don't agree with that.
no,
That
I just
API is a W. People don't know about it
I mean,
yet.
I invest in a lot of the SaaS offerings. So I invested in Twilio at 60, HubSpot at 60. I bought Slack when it went down I bought it $34, went down to 17. I bought it all the way down. I was getting crushed, and I just bought it all the way down. Then Salesforce bought it out. I buy a lot of the offerings that Benzinga subscribes to. We pay Amazon, Tom, $38,000 a month.
That's crazy.
We pay Asana. We pay SendGrid. So all the stuff that Benzinga pays for, I buy their stocks. It's my way of like, we're getting ripped off paying these expensive fees, but at least I own their stock. We have a pre-market show we've been doing for years. And then we have this Power Hour at 12. And then we have this thing called Benzinga Pro, which I'm going to send Tom after. Benzinga Pro, I got tired of Wall Street having an edge on Main Street. I know people say that it's really nice and pretty, but I learned this news and data game a long time ago, and I wanted to build a platform that people can get access to information at the same exact time. The anchors on CNBC, who I like, I'm friends with, Andrew Ross Sorkin, I'm friends with, like him, everything, okay? I know, and they use our Benzinga Pro. We have a team of 40 people that are putting real-time news and data into the platform. There's also signals that get sent. The same things that hedge funds use is in Benzinga Pro. When I was buying Tesla, I was using tools like looking at how many Tesla, the registrations were registered in California, quarter over quarter. When I buy the stock, I have good insight to the earnings can be strong. Or my biggest pick of the year this year, or maybe the end of last year, was Upwork. Upwork, Fiverr, I went all in on those ones. I did. I sold most of my other stocks and I went all in on those two stocks. For three reasons. One, remote work. You're not necessarily hiring employees, you're remote. That was the first reason. Second reason is I'm a big user of Fiverr or Upwork mostly. Third reason, big user, I know how it works. Upwork, it changed its pricing model. They changed their pricing model. They made it so you couldn't like go outside of a Fiverr or Upwork, so you can get kicked off the platform. When they did that, what I did after that is I went and looked at analyst research reports, and no analyst was talking about this. We wrote an article on Benzinga about it, but no analyst was. So I knew that wasn't baked into the stock. So I bought call options and I bought stock. The day before Upwork announced earnings, I'm like, am I happy with my position? Did I buy enough? If the stock goes up 50% today, am I going to be sad that I didn't buy enough? You know? And I said I was happy with my position, which in hindsight I wasn't, because then the earnings did go crazy. The first day they were up 20%. And then I like sold a little bit because I had so much of it. The next 2 days went up like 80% and I already sold some, so I was mad. But my thing is like, I take concentrated bets when the probability or your insight is stronger. The reason I fell in love, I'll say it, with Tom Nash, when his YouTube account was 40,000 subscribers, 30,000 subscribers, the reason I fell in love or loved was because he goes so deep on his companies. He goes so deep and says his story. I haven't seen the kind of analysis that he's doing elsewhere. You guys may say Seeking Alpha, you can read articles and they go really deep. Well, I'm going to tell you an experience there. Seeking Alpha, I get it. It's a good company, you know, maybe it's competitors, but I bought HubSpot at $46. Okay. Originally it's at $380. And I told everyone I know, my dad, everyone, to buy HubSpot. This is when they didn't listen to me. Now they will listen to me whenever I say buy a stock, they'll buy it. But I said, buy it at 48. Well, HubSpot went to 69 or 70. A guy on Seeking Alpha wrote a 5,000 word article how HubSpot is the most overvalued company on the market. And he puts 5,000 words into it. So I read it because I owned it. And I was like, he convinced me that, okay, maybe I've not seen it. So I'm like, I sell a little bit of my position. And, you know, the stock's at 380. He was just so wrong. But what does he have to do? He has to put out articles with deep analysis and just say some opinion, but he has no clue. He's not a customer. He's just a market commentator. And I let him influence me. I used to write street on guys. And at one point I had to write like 4 ideas a day. How can I have 4 ideas a day that are real strong? I just can't. And so I like people, Tom, that take conviction, concentrated bets. And that's what I try to do.
Hey, thank you for the shout out.
Tom Nash.
How do you think that this whole GameStop saga will end? Which is a great question. I really like that question.
I can tell you on certain businesses like Salesforce, their earnings and revenue is going to continue to go up. I can tell you that for sure. Unless for some reason all their technology went away tomorrow, their stuff's going to go up, right? But I can tell you on GameStop, my best guess is it's not over. Yes, the futures are down. My dad called me, the futures are down. He also called me the day that Biden was getting elected, things are gonna go down. I'm like, Dad, no, stimulus coming out. I don't think GameStop story is over right now. I don't. I mean, it happened last Thursday to us and Friday when I saw how together this community was, and they have their own terms, they have their own words they use.
Yeah.
The only thing I don't like is when people have used vitriol or hate. I believe in kindness. I
Yo,
believe in
the Andrew
kindness
left
and doing the
stream
right thing. And
I heard that it was vicious.
it was beyond vicious. It was vicious. It was terrible, actually. Yeah. And some of it I didn't understand because it was like internal words that they use. Okay, so GameStop. I don't think the squeeze is over. I think that these things like Tootsie Roll, Nokia has a large float. So Nokia is a hard one on that one. I think they still have some room to run. I do. You have to also understand, guys, people are moving brokerage accounts right now. I just talked to a brokerage CEO this morning, and he's opening up still 100 accounts a minute. Okay. 3 things. GameStop can get to whatever price, people will keep buying it up for, which could be $1,000. I think it's going to get there. Could be hard. The GME DD price target was 169. It is already over that. I also think, guys, Wall Street doesn't stand still. I believe Wall Street was caught with their pants down. Melvin Capital is down around 60% in January. They're going to put stuff in place where they have protection, where they're going to sell calls against their position in a better hedge position. They did not do that. There's several companies that lost a lot of money. This could be a one-hit wonder, like Tom Nash said, or it's going to be harder to pile in and find opportunities like this where their pants are down. The one that I think about a lot is Jim Chanos. He came to Detroit 4 years ago when Tesla was like at $16. He said it was the biggest short on the market. And I was in the audience. We had a little discussion, but he was at the front of the stage. I was in the audience. Obviously, he was wrong. It didn't become this battle like Chanos versus everyone else. I think the market has fundamentally changed, though. Fundamentally, that David Einhorn, who's a nice guy, I knocked out David Einhorn in a poker tournament. I have the video of it and everything. And I only played him because I wanted to meet him. And so the first hand I had pocket 10s, so we were in the final table. I folded them and I showed him. He was like, "You can't do that." I'm like, "Well, I paid to play in this dumb tournament just to meet you." And so the next hand I knocked him out, but that's another story. He's a nice guy. He short stocks. They put out letters. Is he going to do that again? I mean, shorts is going to be a different part of the market because let's just say there's a guy you don't like. Let's say Eddie Lampert. He used to be in Kmart and all that, Sears, and he shorts a stock. I believe the community is so strong now with Wall Street bets coming together that any stock that they want to rally, they can. Is it any different than someone going on CNBC or going somewhere and saying, "I like this stock"? I mean, I just told you I like API. Could think that's me pumping it up. I'm not trying to pump any stock up. I think this thing has more room to run. I think the GameStop story isn't over, but it's something. If you guys are sitting here thinking on Monday you're going to buy the stock, I can't tell you that because I don't know. Hey, maybe Wall Street Bet says it's over $100. We're at a good number. Now we're going to go on to AMC. I don't know.
I believe that if you play the long game, then eventually your chances of getting exposed to short-term news gets phased out. So just think of it like a formula, right, Jason? So if you're trying to swing trade or day trade, then you're hypersensitive to news, which is okay. And you can make a lot of money this way. Then every second counts, right? There's a lot of people who play the long game, and I'm not saying one is better than the other. It's just different strategies, right? But if you're playing the long game, the volatility of the stock versus these news kind of gets phased out all the way to almost zero as the time goes by. Like you mentioned Robinhood earlier, right? Robinhood in 2 months, realistically, nobody's going to remember that. I mean, the valuation is going to be what it is. I mean, they're going to get a 25 billion anyways. We know that the market is boiling hot. So that's what I'm saying. I mean, I completely agree with what you're saying. I just have a different strategy. Jason, why do you think Salesforce is going to continue going up? All they do is buy out companies for top line growth. What am I missing here? Are they super profitable?
I didn't say the stock is going to for sure go up. I said Salesforce is going to continue to make money and the revenue is going to grow. That's what I said. And the reason is Salesforce, their churn rate is so low. The cancellations are so low. The churn rate is so low and new companies are moving on to Salesforce every day. The reason I went so big into HubSpot was because no one knew about it, but HubSpot had their own CRM and they gave it away for free. It was actually a good CRM. And so that's why I bought HubSpot way back when, because it was the only company that I found as a viable competitor to Salesforce. 4 years ago, there was a guy that I'm friends with that was meeting with Mark, and I told him to ask, why doesn't Mark buy Salesforce? I mean, buy HubSpot. And it didn't happen. It was at $40. Now it's at $400. So Salesforce has highly recurring income, and I know many businesses that completely depend on Salesforce. Salesforce is not just a CRM; it's a way to operate your business. You can actually run your e-commerce sales through Salesforce. I have a buddy who they just raised $22 million. Their whole business is using the Salesforce cloud to run their business. So instead of using AWS, instead of using WordPress, Salesforce is a whole website thing that they use. It is unbelievable. I didn't know about that part of it until like a year ago. And so, yes, Salesforce buys companies. And so they're, part of it's for growth, or part of it is to own like this whole cloud thing, like Slack is cloud. I think Slack is a strong buy. MSN, Microsoft was doing great with its teams. Salesforce having Slack gives it an edge into a lot of small businesses that wouldn't have used Salesforce before. I wouldn't be surprised to see Salesforce make their platform easier to use. I've been saying that for 4 years though. The one thing that sucks about Salesforce, and I mean sucks, you buy software, you have to hire an expert to make it work. If Salesforce does not get easier to use in the next 2 years, then they could have a problem. Yeah, Salesforce bought Slack, that's my point. Why isn't other social media understanding that DTCC is trying to get rid of commission-free trading? It's a fair point. I don't know what the DTC motives are. We reached out to them, or at least I didn't, but people at my company did, and we didn't hear back. And I don't know why they're putting the collateral requirements so high. I think commission-free trading is here to stay, but I do think commission-free trading has been a part of this. No question. People are trading more often. No doubt about it. Good, bad, or what have you. It is what it is.
I want to put you on the spot here a little bit. When are you going to take Benzinga?
Well, people keep asking about a SPAC for Benzinga. And I had a call with a SPAC on Thursday that wanted us to roll us into one. It's a $1 billion SPAC, but we're probably not doing it. But it's interesting. The thing that's interesting to me the most, Tom, there's some of these companies, these EV companies. I mean, you saw Trevor Milton with his, Trevor Milton, right? Your shirt. Yeah. Okay. He rolled a truck down a hill. Benzinga, we have more revenue than those guys do. I mean, we have more revenue, probably so could we be public? My mission a little bit for Benzinga is work for the people, by the people. I love the YouTube audience. Benzinga Pro was made to disrupt how information is sent out. That's why I like working with the Wall Street bets people. I like them saying that stuff because I want all stories to be told. And so Benzinga is for the people, by the people. Why go read all your content on whatever publication? Why not go to the upstart that is the Rocky story? We're the Rocky story. I could have raised $20 million. I've turned it down. We're the Rocky story, and we're here to hear your voices. We're here to be for you. Like that's our story. And so our Benzinga Pro is our thing of like there's a Bloomberg competitor. And so we're here to make a difference. And there's a lot of things that could make your trading easier, guys. I'm literally working right now as much as I can. I'm trying to do the Elon Musk thing where I'm working my butt off. Other than coaching my son's flag football team, we'll do whatever it takes to build the tools that you guys want. I know we're not perfect. It became so much clearer for me this week when I saw what a group of traders and investors on the internet did. And it became so much clearer. And I was saying to myself, guys, and I know Chanos says this too, I was saying to myself, why not us? Why not take it back? Why do I need to go read Bloomberg every time? Why not us? Why can't we do it? I was one of these kids that, maybe been a slow learner. And I was in kindergarten. My mom had me go to different kindergarten, but then I went to first grade at their normal first grade. And I was the kid that I would time the number of people that the teacher, each person reads 2 pages. I would match when it would be my turn, and I'd run out of the classroom to go to the bathroom so I wouldn't have to read in front of everyone. I didn't want to read in front of everyone because I would stutter. I wouldn't know how to read the words. Instead of saying everybody, I would call the all bodies. I would make up my own little language in some respect. So I would go to the LRC, Miss Kent. Miss Kent was the LRC teacher, and she would help modify my work, take tests there. My handwriting was bad. She told my parents that she said to my mom and my dad that your son is likely never going to be able to read. Hearing that, obviously, and then seeing your friends getting their work, not having to have their work modified. Like my work was modified, and I hated being separated from the kids. They would take a test, and I would go take it with Miss Kent or Miss Winger. Miss Winger, she was great. She built me up. Miss Kent, she said I'll never be able to read, and she was just a jerk. And that puts a motivation in you and to work hard. And then the next part about that is thinking about my parents, my mom. If the LRC teacher told me that my daughter would never be able to read, I don't know what I'd do. Yeah, I'd fight through it, but it's the emotions that you're feeling as a parent it's just terrible. So I was, behind, I guess then. And my parents probably spent a lot of money on me to go to all these tutors. I learned to read a different way. So when I read an article, I will see an error in an article or a spelling thing immediately. I catch them all the time, and it annoys me because I learned to read a different way. I don't know why, but I wasn't a writer. And I just somehow started doing stuff at thestreet.com. It's because I had ideas. I mean, I wrote a thing on real money. I was a real money contributor. And when Amazon introduced AWS, I wrote a thing about you got to invest in Amazon stock now. It was at 60 or 80 bucks. And I bought it. And then Doug Cass and Jim Cramer ripped me. And I have screenshots somewhere. They said they're getting unfocused. They should focus on e-commerce. And like, that's the dumbest thing. And I'm like, okay, I'm 23 and I'm probably immature and stupid. So I listened to them and sold my Amazon. I'm not blaming it on them, but it's like authority always tells you something. They say you can't do this. You can't do that. Don't buy Amazon because they started AWS. Right. And it's like they say never let it read. And so I just, every bone in my body, like I hated that feeling of going to another room. I can't imagine. I mean, I remember sitting in my parents' bed in between them in first, second grade, and I had to dictate the work to my mom. I had to my handwriting was so bad that I had to dictate, which means I had to speak it out and then she would write it for me. It's embarrassing when you hand your work in your mom, you know what I mean? All that stuff. And so, I don't know, so that probably stuff stuck with me for a while. And in high school, I kind of figured, got it straightened out. I had to work harder than others. I still do. I have to work harder. It takes me longer to maybe get something done. And then I went, I got a 4 point some quarters in high school. Then I went to University of Michigan. And then I went to the Ross School of Business undergrad.
Which is the top 6 school, just for you guys to know. And now you founded a $500 million company.
Yeah, I mean, the company has grown and it's about the people. I'm maybe the CEO, and I hate the title CEO. That's why it says Chief Zinger on my LinkedIn. If you add me on LinkedIn, you'll see it says Chief Zinger. Maybe I changed the CEO. I don't know. I hate the title CEO. My role as a leader is to remove obstacles for people. This company has grown so tremendously. I mean, we're an 8-digit company growing by 50 to 100% a year. Is because my whole being on this planet is to get people to outperform what they think they can do. And my whole goal is to remove obstacles. So I said, okay, let's get Kevin O'Leary to our first event. They're like, he's the biggest guy. He's on Shark Tank every day. He's on Shark Tank. There's no way. You got to pay $100,000, $50,000, $200,000. Kevin O'Leary is now a good friend of mine, for sure. But my reason I'm bringing this up is because, and I'm not trying to name drop, the reason I'm bringing it up is that the people at the company at first said, no, you can't get Kevin O'Leary, And so I wanted to get Seth Rogen to our cannabis event. We didn't get him, but I didn't spend my time to go focus on him. If I did, he would have been there. There's no question. No question, because I would have found a way to deliver more value to him than he is getting myself. That's the story there. My mom just texted me.
Yeah.
Does he want to interview us right now? Yes, so.
Shout out to Mrs. Raznick. Thank you so much for raising Jason the way you did. You did a good job.
It said, if you want to call my cell, you could say something. And that's, by the way, my leadership things. I sometimes say to people that I don't think they can do something. And it's not always the best way to I be you. I believe in you. The way to get me, Larry, is to, the way to get me, Larry, is to say I can't do it. I love FinViz's site. In 2006, I almost bought FinViz's site for $400,000. I had no money in 2006. But I reached out and tried to buy their site. This is the hustle story. There's a guy named Justin Kahn. He founded a company called Justin.tv. And then that became Twitch.
That's Twitch.
I was there day 30. This is the great story I'm telling you guys. I promise it's a true story. And I have the emails to prove it. I was working at a real estate firm and I saw Justin Kahn walking around campus on Stanford on the internet. It was like this live stream. He had a camera on his head. I loved it. So I emailed them and I said, I love it. Are you guys going to raise money? If you are, I want to be in. We got on a call and they said they wanted strategic money. I had no money at the time. Okay. So the moral of the story is I didn't even have any money then, but I was going to, get it from someone or whatever. So they wanted strategic investors. This is before Mark Cuban did whatever, the Shark Tank or the Benefactor, which was his show before Shark Tank. Some of you may have forgot. So I emailed Mark Cuban. I'm like, hey, I have this company. It's pretty interesting. I think you should come check it out. And so we get on a call. We get on a call with Justin and his team. I'm just connecting them, but I want to get warrants on Mark's investment. And that's what I think I was going to get. I was going to get something like that. So they had the call. We had another call, and Mark agrees to invest. Okay. So there's me with no money or not a lot. and I'm not investing in any, but Mark's going to give me something, right? So I'm excited.
That's crazy.
Because, well, yeah, I mean, so because Mark say he's investing 1.5 million, then I'm going to get, I don't know, let's say something, $10,000 of it, all right? And that 1.5 million was worth, when it sold to Twitch, like say 100 million, okay? Let's just go with numbers, 9 million. They're raising $1.5 million, or no, 2.5 million at a $5 million, no, it was 1.75, like at a $5.5 million valuation. Well, right before they closed, they decided to raise 2.5 million at a $9 million valuation. So they raised another $1 million basically. And Mark wrote on the email, I have it. He's like, guys, you're raising too much. This is a company that needs to be lean and mean. I'm not going to be in it anymore. Mark pulls out of the deal. That means I'm out of the deal. It became Twitch. Sold to Amazon for $1.2 billion. So then when that happened, I sent an email to Mark. I'm like, Mark, remember when I sent you this deal? And Mark's like, yeah, but you sent me a lot of deals. That's not true. I sent Mark one deal. It was that deal. I didn't send him any more deals. I didn't, because it's all in the sent mail. It's all there. That's the beauty of Gmail. And this is my point of bringing this story up, is it's the hustle mentality. So I get a hold of Justin, I don't have the money, or I'm not a strategic investor. Let's say I'm not a strategic investor because I wasn't doing whatever argument it was. I'm sure if I was out in California then, I met him in person, I could have been in. So yes, that's an argument to say I should have been in California because I would have known him. He'd have put me in either way. When they say want a strategic investor, I didn't give up. I went and reached out to Cuban. These guys want Ryan Cohen to come on our show, about GameStop. Yeah. I tried a lot of different ways, and I'm sure I could try more, but there is so much time in the day. Like right now, I need to focus on getting Benzinga's platform better. I need you guys to, like you guys say, you're looking at FinViz. You guys need to come help here. If you guys can make stuff, we want you, or you can write good content, we want you. Like we up until like say the beginning of last year, we were like doing like normal articles and stuff. We now go 24 hours a day on articles. If you're overseas, we don't care where you are. You can be remote, you could be whatever. And I don't know, put bounties out there. If you can build us a good insider trading page, I'll send you $15,000 next week. And I will. And the reason it may sound crazy that I'm saying this stuff, I've learned that it's really hard to get stuff done. And it's really hard, Tom, to find guys like you who work so hard and are so driven to tell stories. I mean, you get out there and tell stories. Like if I could hire Tom Nash, he'd be hired. Because he's a guy that gets stuff done. I mean, look, Tom, how many other people are like you that wanted to start a show and talk about stocks and go so deep? I'm going to say to you, there are 100,000 other people like you that wanted to. And then I'm going to say there's probably only out of the 100,000, there's probably only 10 people that do what you did. You know what I mean?
I appreciate the kind words. Yeah, but this is actually a good insight. If you guys are overseas, because Benzinga is pretty much a 24-hour thing, right? You guys are overseas and Jason just told you.
Oh yeah, we're trying to do, like we have an Australia site, I think it's benzinga.it. We're trying to do other countries. I mean, so the way that we're different, I'll also give you one more thing why we're different than the other media places. We don't just write these long stories, although the story that I posted in the link about how that we were the room where it happened on the argument between the Wall Street bets and Citron, that was a long story. What we do is we do the who, what, where, why. Okay, the who, what, where, why. We do that every time. So we give you the facts. We use like bullet points. And then below it, we say, if you believe this, here's how you can take advantage of it. If you believe that, here's how you can take advantage of it. So for example, I thought Tesla's earnings were going to be bad this quarter. Not bad. I thought the stock was going to sell off after earnings. Okay, it sold off like a little bit. We said the scenarios. So if it sells off, here are some ways you can hedge yourself. You can buy puts, you can short this ETF that owns it, you can short Tesla, but maybe you don't want to because the premium on it and all the traders maybe want a less exposure. So what we try to do is democratize finance. So the hedge fund strategies that people have, we try to give it to consumers. We're not going to always get it right. I know that, but we try to change the game and do it differently than everyone else. Who wants more noise in another media outlet? No one does. There's so much noise everywhere. And when I started Benzinga, the place I worked, they didn't want to look at Twitter at all. They didn't want to look at Twitter at all. And they said Twitter was terrible. It's a bunch of idiots putting stuff out. I had the exact same approach. I probably would still be at the other place, but I was like, Twitter is everything to me. There's a lot of smart people around the world. We have a cannabis product, Tom, run by Alan Brockstein, 420investor.com. And it is awesome. It's a guy that's in like Texas and, we send him big checks and it's like, we're partners on it. It's the same thing, Benzinga Pro. We find really smart people to come in and give us intelligence. Benzinga Pro, if you have good intelligence on the market or you're seeing things, we'd love for you to come in there and chat. I'm gonna bribe Tom to come in there and chat because it's like we're trying to find ideas. We're trying to, come up with ideas that are differentiated than what's else is out there to help you produce alpha. I was messing around with this page I just put in the chat, benzinga.com/trade ideas. I was trying to put a thing where you can just see my ideas because people say they don't see my ideas. I'm not fully using it because the site isn't like totally done, but I just wanted to have a way that people can catalog my trade ideas or see them when I said them so they can hold me accountable. And that's what that is. So, and I don't want you to work for me. I want you to work with me. Just like Tom, if we were working together, we're not working for each other, we're working with each other. Because when you work for someone, then you're waiting for the boss to tell you to do something. I want the other way. There's no way I can cover all this stuff. I mean, guys, listen, I started that interview with Andrew Leff, and I didn't know like that he was so short GameStop. I'm not going to know everything. I only know what I know, and that's it. And I have 3 kids, and that's my family. That's the most important. So in life, the most important thing is my family, you know, parents, kids, that. Then you would argue that your health, if you don't have health, you have nothing. Then you could say religion or building a business, like work, whatever. That's the order. You know, talk about PTO, vacation. I'm not saying don't go on vacation, but if you love this stuff, if I told Tom he could not post to YouTube for a month, I guarantee Tom would be pissed off.
Yeah.
Okay, because it's not work for him. It's not work. And you guys all have the opportunity. You live one life. I have bad news for everyone right now, and I'll say it. You're gonna die, I'm gonna die, you're gonna die. So if you really think about that, and you know that, and you know it, so why go into that place where you're working 9 to 5 and dreading it? You know, and I'm sure there's people at Benzinga that dread it and don't want to be there. I think they should leave then. I want a passionate, driven bunch can take on the likes of Bloomberg. You guys realize Bloomberg does like $6 billion a year in revenue? Do you guys realize the reporters used to see what the people were using on Bloomberg, like what they were clicking on? And I mean, there's just so many advantages they have. We got to work together as a team. I plan to do a lot of stuff with Tom Nash and figuring out ways that we can work together as a team, because I promise you, our 85 people at Benzinga cannot take on the world. We have to come together. That's why I like the Wall Street. They came together, and I don't have all the technology solutions to come together. All I can tell you is I'm passionate and I'm willing to do whatever it takes to help out and remove barriers. That's it. The same thing that Tom would be willing to do as well. And it's really nice when you join his community because it helps support him to do these deep fundamental videos. There's only one reason why I found Tom Nash is because he cares and goes deep on the stocks. To me, that's the kind of person that I like hearing about. And the last thing I was saying, work is sometimes like considered like a 4-letter, like a bad thing. So I often don't say work. I say I'm building. So my dad said, "Are you going to work today?" I'm like, "No, I'm going to build." And it's like, sounds weird, but it's a different mindset. I'm at my house right now, and there are people in the front of my house right now building and trying to respond to emails. Chamath, I would love to have Chamath. But guys, why can't we create a SPAC? Why can't Chamath be calling us? Why can't we all get together on this? Why can't we fight together? Why don't we create the best stock screener in the world? Why don't we do it together? And I know why not, because it's really hard, and that's why capitalism and works, because you have to like go find the thing, but we can change how it's been done and say, why not us? But it takes a driven amount of people. You guys have no idea that how happy I was that Tom Nash invited me on his show. You have no idea. And Tom's was surprised I was going to come on in some respect, but I found Tom when he was just starting, and I was like, this guy's great. And he didn't really want to be like necessarily be discovered or whatever. He didn't have contact info. And somehow I got a hold of him. And like, if you want me to bring the CEO of Webull on, I can call the CEO of Webull right now and he could come on. I know he would. And if you want me to bring on whoever, I can bring them on. But there's a reason why. It's because you give more than you receive. You give more than you receive in life, and you seek to understand. And I admit, I'm not as great as I'm saying in some of these things. I'm not. I will jump to conclusions sometimes. I'll be angry. Like you guys, I was broadcasting with Tom and I was excited to do it. My wife cut the internet. She was literally crying. And like, I actually got a tear in my eye because I felt so bad that she was crying when she cut the router because she knew how many people were here. And I got emotional.
Come on, that happens. I had worse incidents.
I got emotional that she cared so much that she was trying to move the stuff away from here, like so the kids can go play in another room. And so she cut the whole router, which takes like a few minutes. And so she started crying because she was just trying to help me. That means a lot, you know, like, and that's, you want people to, you can't do anything alone. So I wouldn't be doing this without my wife or without anyone. So thank you, Stacy, if you're listening, because that, when I saw you cry,
Stacy, we appreciate you.
That was powerful.
Stacy is legit. Stacy, if you're listening, you're a superstar. Don't worry about it. I had worse things happen on air, believe me.
It was just one of those moments, like, like it was off and I'm like, what the heck? And I thought my computer it was just one of those things. And I look and the thing wasn't even plugged in. So,
I mean, that's genuine. You can't fake that shit.
you guys may have any anxiety. You may be at home. You may think you're alone. You may think life isn't what you want it to be and you're depressed. Just know there's tomorrow and things will get better. All right. I got a little surprise for you, Tom.
Let's get it. I was about to ask you about Tesla, actually. So after that.
Hindrance. Benzinga shows aren't live streamed on Twitch. I mean, that is a great question. Brent Slava was supposed to do that for this past week, but I don't know what happened to him. If you know who Kathy Wood is, I have Kathy Wood coming on my show March 3rd for a half an hour.
That's amazing.
And
I would give my liver if she comes on my show. I'm such a fanboy of Kathy.
But this is where you give more than receive. I spent 2 hours with her in February in Detroit.
I remember that story. When you came up to her after the talk and you had like a whole couple hours where you actually chatted. Is Tesla overvalued, Jason? This is a really good question.
In the short term, everything is overvalued in some respect, right? A lot of things. But could it still go up? Yes. The market right now, because you can't get interest on your cash. And so the market is inflated because people need to put their money somewhere. And so they're going to the stock market, right? And so there's a lot of stocks, some are undervalued, there's a lot of stocks that are arguably overvalued for where they're at today.
What about the Palantir, Jason?
I'm not really in that one. I mean, I can tell you why Tesla's undervalued. I can tell you a million reasons why Tesla's undervalued. I mean, I'm long Tesla in a big, big way. I bought Tesla originally at $10 after split or 38 pre-split. So Palantir is an interesting company, but so many people know about it. I try to find the ones that people don't know about. Like when I was finding Upworks, Palantir, I'm sure it's been around for a while. I mean, there's a lot of shorts playing the market. There's a lot of correction. I mean, you see the mortgage market, these companies going public. I mean, there's going to be corrections and there's going to be, guys, I was there in 2000. So I have experience losing the money. I bought a stock rare medium at $48, guys, went to $78. And then I bought another 100 shares at 78. So I had 200 shares. That company went to zero. Yeah, we're in downtown Detroit. We have a big 60-foot stock ticker on the front of our building, 60-foot like wide. We reinvented the stock ticker with these graphics. Dan Gilbert, who owns the Cleveland Cavaliers, and Rocket Mortgage, if you know Rocket Mortgage, RKT, and the Cleveland Cavaliers and whatever. He's an investor in Benzinga, and he helped redesign the new stock ticker. I gave Express Spas a pick when I was live. I bought it the day before, and the stock went up 150% while I was on air. And that was partly because they issued a press release while I was talking. People started accusing me of insider trade. And I wrote back like on LinkedIn, some guys like, be credible, at least admit it. I was like laughing. I wrote back to the guy. I'm like, I appreciate that you think I was insider trading. If I was insider trading, I don't think I'd go out publicly and say this stock, whatever. But like being accused of insider trading is like being accused if like you work out a lot and you're strong and so on, so you take steroids. Yeah. Like I bought the stock Express Spa because they hired a medical officer. And so I'm like, okay, they're at the airports, they can do corona tests. So that's why I bought it. And it just so happened 8 minutes after I started talking, they issue a press release that they're doing JFK. It was so funny. At first, we thought it went up because I said it like that much, but it wasn't that. It was the press release. So
before we wrap this up, I prepared this for the wrap. Yep. But before we wrap it up, here's what I want to tell you. I think that it was phenomenal. I don't know. Some people maybe liked it. Some people maybe didn't like it. I don't give a shit. It's my show. I love having your mom come in and talk about it. It was phenomenal. I think it was a real human moment. A router going out was hilarious. I didn't know it has such an impactful moment on your end, but we all laughed about it. You getting assassinated by the CIA or the SEC or the DDoS, and I mean it was a phenomenally funny moment. However, jokes aside, I think you dropped some real knowledge bombs here, and it was really interesting to get your perspective on this whole situation, which is kind of a more balanced news source kind of approach to it. Because we had the hedge fund guy, we had Will, and now it's the actual people who delivered the realest news on the internet about stock market, which is my opinion, Benzinga. I don't go to mainstream media anymore unless I want to laugh and have some memes. So I think you dropped a lot of knowledge here. The response from the audience was amazing, as you just saw in the comments. I mean, I don't have to tell you more than that.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I hope people got something out of it.
I think people loved it. They were telling me to shut up, man.
There's a lot of people excited about Nokia. I got rid of my NOK. I have my AMC. I got my Tootsie Roll, cotton candy, sweet and go, Tootsie Roll. I got that. I have my AMC and I have my GME. Those are the stocks I have, guys. Those are the stocks I have. I mean, I have a lot more stocks. I have like 70 stocks. I own lithium. I'm all about lithium. I don't own Workhorse, but I'm a stock nut. Like when I worked for the street, I could go up against Jim Cramer on any stock. I could tell you the little story on each stock. I am a stock nut. Nowadays, I'm not as much of a stock nut. I know the companies that I know. I have to build Benzinga. That's my core focus is building Benzinga. It's not trading. But there's certain stocks that I go really deep on. Like when I did Upwork, went really deep, So yeah, I mean, I'm with you guys. I love it. And I own crypto. My friend is the CEO of Voyager. So I own that company stock. It's like on the OTC and Canadian. I own that. Oh, IPOE, I own too. I own IPOE because of SoFi. And Chamath is getting a lot of good press. So I bought IPOE because of the Chamath press, right? Mr. Taza, I've owned LTHM since 2018. And it's gone up when it was at 20, then went down to 6 or 5. Now it's back at 20 and went to 24. I just sold half my position on Friday in lithium. I've been lowering my exposure to the markets the last 3 weeks, just a little bit or a medium bit, because I know there's going to be another big opportunity to go after, and I want to be ready, and I don't want to be as exposed. I haven't sold Tesla since I bought it at 38. Last week was the first week before earnings. I sold Tesla and bought puts. I still own it. It's 40% of my portfolio, but prior it was 60%. So yeah, we got to get Chamath on Tom's show, my show, whatever it is. Tom, Thank you for having me on. You're a mensch. You're a good man, and
Same
appreciate
to you, brother.
it. Yes, I own SLV. I love silver. I'm not selling silver. I'm going to own SLV until my hair is fully white. Tesla is going to be fine. I'm still long it, but I sold some because when you look at Apple sold off on amazing numbers. And so when I saw that 4 months ago, when anyone came out with numbers, stocks went up whenever the numbers came out. Now I'm seeing some sell off on big cap companies. So I've been trimming to get ready. NNDM, that's a Kathy Wood. I own NNDM. I think that goes to 24, can move. Nokia can move. Highland, people talk about it nonstop. I mean, enough people talk about it that it should go up, but I don't own it. MindMed, MMEDF. I had Kevin O'Leary on last week. He's been on, we had him on the small cap event. We do big events. At the small cap event, it was at 180. Now it's at 3. It's risen a lot, but MindMed is getting a lot of press and a lot of coverage from the average investor. I own MindMed at 180 and I don't own as much at 3. I don't know if this thing goes to 9 or if it doesn't, because it's all the story on that. It's all the story on MindMed. So if you're in MindMed, be careful. And it's risen a ton. That's why I want to be careful. I'm in CCIV. We all know the story there. Let's get off that one. Bingo. It's a Tom Nash special. Tom will answer that. I'm in bingo because of Tom Nash.
Yeah, I'm not selling even at 12. Yes. I'm sold on this.
All right, I may buy more when I hear Tom say that.
CHEK, check. That was one of my screw ups, at least for now. I mean, I thought the stock was good. It didn't really pan out. So I own, bad picks when I have bad picks. Check was a bad pick. Sorry, I'm not a prophet. It is what it is.
Do a part 2. Guys, thanks for listening to me. I definitely babbled a bit, talked too fast. Hopefully there was something you got out of it. Maybe some lives will be impacted and you got inspired and can do something with it. Maybe you want to write for Benzinga and you can write 30 articles a day, just giving news updates. One thing about all these YouTube people and all these Discord groups, you don't know people's vested interest sometimes. You don't know. And they could be telling you trading against it. I've seen it, guys. I can tell you back end stories of some of these things where you didn't know the person was doing the opposite. And I can personally tell you, for a fact that Tom Nash is not doing that. You know that.
There's an Excel spreadsheet which I keep open on Google Docs with every single pick I made and how much the price was when I released the video, how much price is today, and whether I think it's currently overvalued or undervalued. So it's completely transparent. I don't do paid reviews and I don't pump and dump. I just give my opinion and I keep myself accountable. When I fuck up, I fuck up. I mean, Czech was a bad pick. Actually, that was one of my not so successful ones.
My GAN was a bad pick for a while, and so was my Slack. But then Slack turned around, and then GAN turned around.
He's bashing me for saying Oracle is a good company. I like Oracle. I know a lot of people hate Oracle. It is what it is.
Well, Oracle is the best sales team I've ever seen. They're so good. They send me they used to send me all this stuff, and I've unsubscribed a million times. And they would send me things that it just made me want to use them because they're like, make me feel so guilty that I'm not using them. You know,
They're really good at creating
Like that's,
B2B relationships. They're really good at creating and managing relationships. I mean, Oracle, you can say whatever you want about Larry. I mean, there's a lot of people who have issues with the company. I think they have a great margins. They're really good at maintaining clients, which is something I really like. You know what they say, it's 10 times cheaper to maintain a client rather than get a new one. So that's why their margins look like the way they do. They're phenomenal.
Yep, it was good. It was good doing this, guys. Check out Benzinga.com, Benzinga Pro, our YouTube channel, which is Benzinga. And thank you for having me on. You're a good man, Tom Nash. And you guys know how to reach out to me. And Jumaya, I own Jumaya. That was a Chris Kaji special. Bought it at 36. I own Jumaya and I'm not selling. And Ford, I own Ford. I'm in Detroit. I'm gonna go give Stacy a hug for, being emotional on the router thing coming out. And I will talk to you guys later.